Oh, welcome back. What we got today is day one of our sub work for We Are Still Here, an amazing board book that we're going to be working with these next 2 days. We Are Still Here, Native American Truths Everyone Should Know. Before we get started, it's important for us to circle how we're feeling or draw how we're feeling in the space provided. Me, I'm not in school right now, which makes me crazy. So I'm going to circle, angry, though I could just as soon circle sad. Please take a moment and I would like you to circle the one that you think you best matches you. Let's just say you are not prepared today, or at least you don't have your computer for whatever reason. You should just draw the emoji, all right? And take a moment, please. By the way, before you take a moment to do this, this is a note to students and to my assistants and to substitutes and or teachers covering this class today. Music indicates that the video should be paused so that the students may complete their work on their Chromebook or paper. Unless specified, these pauses needn't be longer than 3 minutes. In fact, I would suggest this next one take only about 30 seconds. I'm going to ask that the students who know that when a word is underlined in orange, they say the word that's on the screen out loud. So if this is in full screen, it might be wise to make it full screen now. And for students to read along properly, they should also be on slide 4 in case they can't read the screen. The adagio is where Grieg's talents are really on melancholy and longing without being stayed. The of the second movement again, the lower strings playing in their upper registers, aching, yearning. The doesn't return into two full minutes in, and when it does, it's hesitant, as if trying out a few before sticking to just one. There's a bit of back between the orchestra and the soloist, but it's slow and easy, like having a long while sitting stretched out on a patch of grass. No doubt there are sparks of and surprise, but I'm in awe of how this portion of the concerto is. All right, so this is Grieg's Piano Concerto in A minor, movement 2. And that'll be the music that accompanies us completing this first slide. Doesn't take much for this one, so about 30 seconds. Some of you will be drawing on paper, of course, and some of you will be using the computer. Oof, killing it. All right, so those of you who've had a chance to write it, let's just say also you haven't had a chance to put your name on your paper. I know some of us sometimes forget that, so you should put your name, date, and section, right? For instance, core 1, right? All right. Everyone on slide 6, explain how the emoji you selected reflects what you were feeling. Don't copy my answer, but I would say the angry emoji reflects my feelings because I would much rather be at school instead of sick at home. Right? Those of you who don't have a computer, you can also underneath the emoji that you drew earlier, right? Let's say it was my angry one, right? Then you would now write underneath it what that emoji reflects. Please take the time to, those of you with working computers, slide 6, and those of you with paper, write on paper. Please take the time to do so now. Nice. So, slide 8, share some words of encouragement to help peers who are not feeling positive emotions, sort of like the person making this video. All right. Maybe a good sentence starter for this one would be, listen, comma, today can still be a good day because. And then for me, well, I mean, I do like reading and I do like making things for school and I do like thinking about how these videos will interface with everyone and how fun or interesting they might be. So there are positive angles that I could write about if I didn't have a computer, but I'd like everyone right now, slide 8 if you've got a working computer, on paper if you don't, to share some encouraging words that you could do to help peers who feel like Mr. Surface who's stuck at home today. There you go. So we're, now that we had our little opening, going to take the time to do about 20 minutes of Lexia. If you click on this link here, it'll take you to ClassLink, and then you'll sort of go from there to type in Lexia. Mine looks a little bit different than yours, simply because I'm a teacher and most of y'all are students. So it says My Lexia for me, but it'll say Lexia Power Up for y'all. All right. Mr. Surface, I don't have a computer. I can't do Lexia. Your teacher should have a copy of a word search for you to work on for the next 20 minutes. But that's what we are doing. If you don't have a computer, you're word searching. If you do have a computer, you're doing Lexia. All right, please take the time to, the teacher should set the timer for 20 minutes at the front of the room, or they can use their phone or whatever they prefer. And for the next 20 minutes, we're rocking with Lexia. All right. So now we're going to start cooking this book, and it's going to be great. The essential question that we're going to use to join these two word clouds together, the one on the left is from Code Talkers, the one on the right is from today's book, We Are Still Here, is when is it right to take a stand? So what I'd like you to take a moment to do is to switch on over to the highlight here, Shabbat, and to switch it over to mustard yellow, Badoo. And I'd like you to highlight some of these words that have something to do with when it's right to take a stand. Well, I can see right here, World War II. There were definitely some people doing the wrong thing during World War II. So I think it makes sense to me, at least, that people should stand up and help out others that are victims. I think that's a pattern in history I see on the other side, and I think that's important that people do that, and especially Americans do that, since that's a country I was born in and we are currently learning in. So please take a moment, and I'd like you to switch it over to orange. And I'd like you to highlight two words in each of the word clouds that you think have something to do with taking a stand. Mr. Surface, I don't have a computer. That's fine. All right. All I need you to do is you would just write down some of the words that you see. So maybe you might write down, American. Maybe number 2, you might write down native. Maybe number 3, etc. Right? So please take the time now to process these two word clouds. You are working on slide 12. Students and those of you without a computer are working on paper. Please do so now. There you go. So, slide 15, please. One of the things that is good to do when you're taking the PSSAs or taking any sort of longer test is that if you know you have to write a TDA essay at the end of it, it's good to read that prompt first, to locate that prompt first, so you can keep it in the back of your head, because it's usually going to go with a lot of other different questions, and it'll be good to keep in your head since you have to write about it later. So on slide 15, I'd like you to drag these two red dots. I'd like you to put one on we for the moment, and to put the other one on here. We here. All right. And I'd like you to find two important words in the prompt. All right. There are many dimensions to the resilience or toughness of Native Americans in this country. Which student does the best job presenting this information? Write an essay examining their presentation. Well, please take a moment, and I'd like you to drag your two dots to the two most important words in that prompt. Please do so now. Those of you on paper, right, what you can do is just write down those two words on your paper. All right, that's what y'all can do. All right, so you can write down, the most important word is number one, and the most other important word is number two, something like that. All right, please take the time to do that now. All right. So we are now on slide 17, and we're going to get ready to start reading Still Here. We are still here. Truths everyone should know about Native Americans. We are still here. And here's the prompt at the top of this one. There are many dimensions to the oppression of Native Americans in this country. Right? Maybe you chose oppression earlier. Which student does the best job presenting this information? All right, maybe you. Student. Excellent. We are still here. Slide 19. Native American truths everyone should know. And you can see here that all these parents and families are coming to the school for the night, and it looks like they're going to be celebrating Indigenous Peoples Day at night. So think of the Black History. We used to have it at school before COVID, the Black History Month Museum. Something very similar to that. Our native nations have always been here. We are indigenous to the continent now called North America. Our leaders are sovereign and have power to make rules. If you could please drag the blue magnifying glass to the word sovereign and drag your other blue magnifying glass to the word power to make rules. And we'll just put it on power for now. All right. And then please follow along using this yellow light bulb. So make sure you're dragging along with Mr. Surface. In 1776, white people broke free from England and created their own country called the United States, which affected our lives even more. Like European rulers before them, the leaders of the new U.S. government signed legal agreements called treaties with our native nations. These treaties recognize the sovereignty. Again, that's the power to make your own rules, to have your own land. These treaties recognize the sovereignty of our native nations to exercise control and power over our people and lands. Despite the continued occupation of our homelands, regular attacks on our sovereignty, and being mostly forgotten in the U.S. culture, Native nations all say, we are still here. Right? And there's the title right there. We'll leave the light bulb there. So this is an activity I cannot take credit for myself, but it comes from Rebellious Read-Alouds by Vera Anaya. And what she asked you to do when you're reading this specific book here, We Are Still Here, is to find out where the land that you're on, what Native American tribe might have been there previously before they were exterminated or moved or all that bad stuff. So the first thing you'll need to do is to click this link. It says click this and enter 3 different tribes. I'm going to click it now. Boom. It'll take you to this website there. And now what you need to do is you need to type in 3 locations and start with Stewart Middle School in Norristown. So let's do number 1 together, and the other 2 I can give you suggestions, but I won't necessarily help you find it then. Okay? So go to map. Okay. Search Stewart Middle School, Norristown. There we are, Pennsylvania. So that'll take us in there. We're zooming in. There's Stewart Middle School, that little block, and it looks to me like it is the Lenni Lenape is the tribe where we were. So I would go ahead and I think it's easier when I'm looking at the word. I just type it up here, Lenni, or this tough word first, LenapehOking, parentheses, Lenni Lenape. And then I do Control Alt, Control X. I cut it out of there. And now I can go over here and say number 1. All right. And I should probably, say that's Stewart Middle School. So there's number 1. Now, maybe you're interested in other things. Maybe you are interested in Philadelphia's City Hall. Or maybe you have a favorite football team or something like that isn't the Eagles for whatever silly reason, and maybe you want to look at the Oakland Raiders stadium, right? All right. All of those are permissible to look up. It looks like it spans the whole continent. Okay, so your job now, and if you don't have a computer, you are just copying down the answers of someone at your group who does have one, or working on your word search if for some reason your group is completely computerless. But you are going to take, I would say, maybe take 3 to 5 minutes on this. Those of you who work at the clock, take 3 to 5 minutes, and you're finding 3 locations and what tribes were previously on those locations. All right, please take the time to do so. Right, you're using this website and writing it down on the thing. You're taking the time to do that now. Please go ahead and begin. All right. So hopefully that was revealing. You found out some of those who were booted off their land here in America. So assimilation, right? Assimilation is, and I'm going to use this other slide to read it on slide 25. So please be on slide 25. Assimilation. Most U.S. leaders did not respect our ways and thought. This is from Winona's presentation. Most U.S. leaders did not respect our ways and thought. It would be better for us to adopt their beliefs and practices. From the country's earliest days, white men sought to weaken our native nation's power to govern, their sovereignty again, destroy native families by taking our children away and sending many to boarding schools, right? Outlaw our sacred practices and punish us for speaking our own languages, right? That's what it said here. It's just a little bit easier to read on the other slide. And then on slide 23, even under these harsh laws, Native nations say, we are still here. And notice, I'd like you to drag this blue over to the word assimilation, right? And when you assimilate, you try to blend in. So if you could drag the other one to this uniform, right? Trying to make people blend in. Now, let's say we had to break this down using the prompt that we went over earlier. So if you look on slide 24, you'll see that there are 3 different colored dots, and that these dots are being used to break down the prompt, to break down the text on the page, and when possible, to break down the visuals on the page. Okay? So let's practice this one together. All right? So, prompt. There are many dimensions to the resilience or toughness of Native Americans in this country. Which student does the best job presenting this information? Write an essay examining their presentation. So I think the student here is Winona. So I'm going to put student in red over here. Another important piece, it says, does the best job presenting. So I'm also going to put presenting, right, as one of the important words. Now, as if you may remember, the purple dots are for the text. The purple dots are for the text on the page. So now I'm going to look at the text and see if there aren't any that coincide with the prompt on the left. Well, she does a particularly good job here with most U.S. leaders did not respect our ways of thought, right? I'm going to put ways of thought right. I'm going to put thought in purple, right? I think that's an interesting and good way to represent what a culture is, a way of thinking, a way of thought. I'm then going to find another piece of textual evidence. Now I see this word resilience over here, toughness. Even under these harsh laws, Native nations say we are still here. I like that they, even though the laws were harsh, they still fought back. I love that. Right? Now I'm going to look for support for this prompt in the visuals on the page using the orange. Remember, the orange is for the visuals, okay? So I think a good one here is this very severe teacher, right? You can see her expression is kind of like gritted teeth, like she seems harsh in of herself. I like that as a visual signifier of what they were up against, which could be a really extreme school marm, All right, so that's what your page can look like. And I hope you followed along with me. And if you disagreed and wanted to put your dots elsewhere, that's absolutely up to you. For those of you who don't have a computer today, I think it would just be good to write down uh, two important words from the red. So maybe one, two, and then two important words in purple. That would be one, two, and then to describe one of the visuals on there that support that prompt, and that would just be one. Okay, so those of you who need to write it down on paper and to copy off of slide 25 of the person next to you, now might be a good time to do so. Please help out your computerless classmates, please. All right. Way to work together, y'all. So, continuing on. Key's presentation, allotment. White people wanted to control and sell even more of our tribal lands. Native nations had already given up larger pieces of land for smaller ones in treaties. In fact, the United States passed laws that divided up the remaining allotted lands of many tribes, gave a certain amount of land to each tribal citizen, and sold the leftover land to white settlers and railroad companies. In spite of all this, Native nations say we are still here. Slide 28. Taziba's presentation, Indian New Deal. The U.S. government tried to help many people during the Great Depression, but its leaders saw how badly Native people suffered compared to others. Knowing that, Congress created or crafted a series of new laws that protected tribal culture, arts, and crafts, allowed Native languages and traditions to be taught in schools, set aside money to buy back lost tribal lands, and changed most tribes' governing systems to operate more like the U.S. government, which was not always helpful. Noting these new laws, Native nations say, we are still here. Chase's presentation, termination. In order to save money, the U.S. government decided to stop honoring treaty agreements with more than 100 Native nations. Oof. This terminated our relationship with the federal government and no longer allowed our tribes or citizens to be legally separate in the United States. Although our tribes kept their part of each treaty, the United States stopped working with tribal leaders, sold the affected Native nations' lands and resources, and lowered the government's financial duty to tribes nationwide. With the return of these anti-sovereignty policies, there's that word sovereignty again, right? These anti-native power policies, our Native nations say, we are still here. So let's take a moment and go over this information. We're going to answer the questions that are on this page and use the information below. And if we need to backtrack to read it a little bit clearly, of course, we can do that. Answer the following questions in writing. So for those of you who are, it looks like there's 1, 2, and 3 questions here. For those of you who don't have a computer today, then of course you're going to want to write, take a moment to load, 1, 2, and 3, so that you can answer these questions in writing too. Let's take a moment. What do you think about the Indian New Deal? Well, let's get a sentence started there for number 1. What do you think? I think that the Indian New Deal was ... Number 2, the follow-up question is, was it fair? The Indian New Deal was not fair because. And obviously, you're not going to leave both was and was not in there. You'll choose one or the other, depending on your opinion. Then you look at those illustrations, right? What do you notice about the people signing the deal, right? Look at the individuals signing the deal there on the desk. And you might start with, I notice that the people signing the deal are ... So those 3 sentence starters you're welcome to use or ignore if you've got ones that are better. But I'd like you to take the time to answer those 3 questions now. If you have trouble reading it and feel like you need access to the text, you can always go back to slide 29 and 28. All right, please take the time to answer those questions now. Ooh, Greg on the cut, killing it. All right, so those of you with paper, hopefully you had a chance. Let's break this information down again in terms of our prompt, our guiding prompt. All right. Drag the red dots over 2 keywords from the prompt and 3 dots over the matching parts of the prompt, the parts that help you to answer it. So there are many dimensions to the resilience or toughness of Native Americans in this country. Which student does the best job presenting this information? Write an essay examining their presentation. Please take a moment, and I'd like you to drag the 2 red dots to the 2 most important words in that prompt. Take about 30 seconds to do so now. All right. Next, drag these 2 purple dots over here to the white, and I'd like you to find 2 pieces of text, right? That means over in this section here, 2 pieces in the text that help to answer the prompt on the left. Take a moment to find text, not pictures, to find text that helps to answer that prompt on the left. All right. And then finally, take a look at those pictures and illustrations. And I'd like you to find one illustration or one part of an illustration that you feel helps to answer that prompt there on the left. Please take the time to find that final little bit of information with that orange dot. Excellent. For those of you who did not have a computer today, you can, of course, take the time to write down what the 2 most important words were, right? And then take the time to write down what the 2 pieces of text were, right? Just single words, and then what the illustration was that maybe your partner or you would have put a dot on if you had a computer that was charged or working or not run over today. All right. Hopefully, you have had a chance to catch up, those of you on paper and are following along, but if not, take about a minute to do so now. Ooh, piano's about to kick in. Yes, indeed. All right. So that's how we'll close for today. Our closing routine, we still have a few things to write down and take care of, right? This is from the Facing History in Ourselves closing routine exit cards. But this is information that's valuable to me because you can tell me, Mr. Surface, I like this about today's sub work. I did not like this. All right, so let's go ahead and round out what it is we're doing today. What do you need? What is something I can do as your teacher to support you in this class? And what is something other students can do to support you in this class? Well, those 2 questions you can easily answer in maybe using a T-chart or just numbering 1 and 2, right? But what is something I can do as your teacher to support you in this class? How could this video have been better? What could I have done to make it better or easier? Should I have gone faster or slower, right? What works? And then what is something other students can do to support you in this class? Were your classmates a hindrance or a help when it came to this activity today? Please take the time to answer slides 36 on paper or on a computer if you got your computer today. Excellent. So next, don't misunderstand me. One misunderstanding someone might have about me is, now this can be to me, or it could be to the person who was watching class today. Maybe you had an off day. So maybe, for instance, you meant something about understand me is, I am usually on point, but today was, blah, 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 right? But really the truth about me is, I am awesome and an amazing student. You might write something like that, or maybe something completely different, but I'd like you to take the time now on paper, right? On paper, oops, on paper or on your computer, please. All right, please take the time to complete this slide now. 38. Beautiful. Where am I? It looks like this is a little more complicated, but it's not so bad. You've got to click on the text for slide 40. Click on the text, please. It says, today I accomplished. What did you get done today? All the slides. Or maybe you learned about Native American resilience. Or laws. Or history. Or maybe you learned a little something about Grieg. Who knew we'd be learning about a composer Grieg today? Then you just click down here and say, and you can see this by, well, what slide should I look at as a teacher? Should I go back to slide 5, slide 6? Should I go back to your word clouds? All right, what should I do? What do you still need to get done today? What do you still need to get done today? Right, you just click over there, and then my next steps are, and you just click over there. Next, I will, blah, blah, blah. Please take the time, and of course you're just writing the same sort of stuff here, right? Today I accomplished, so you might write number 1, today I accomplished, number 2, and you can see this by, number 3, I still need to, and number 4, my next steps are, okay? So please take the time to take care of slide 40 now. Ooh, killing it. And finally, works for me. This week we used the following strategies. These strategies worked for me because, right? Well, to help you out with this one, right? We used classical music, right? That's music with no lyrics, so as not to overtax the language centers of the brain, right? What are some other strategies that you saw were being used here, right? Thinking about your feelings, taking an emotional inventory before you start your intellectual inventories, right? And what strategies would work well for you tomorrow? Would giving advice to your grouchy classmates be something that would be useful tomorrow? Advice and moods. What were some other strategies, right? Having the prompt next to the text. Perhaps that helped, perhaps it didn't. All right, but take a moment. What strategies work for you? Obviously, those of you with no computer, you're taking care of number 1, number 2. All right, slide 42, y'all. Go ahead, get in there. Excellent, excellent, excellent. So now you probably have about 15 minutes left in class or so. So everybody is now taking a moment to lock in on this amazing word search. It's got all these different words that go along with these issues of standing up for what's right and native peoples and cultures and sovereignty. It's got all that good stuff over here in the word list. And then over here, you got to switch it over to highlighter. It's very important. And then a highlighter to choose a color. And then what you're going to take the time to do is try to find them all. Now, 15 minutes might not be enough time. Maybe you want to come back to it later. But your job is to tackle this as best you can. All right, and this is closing out today's class because as you can see tomorrow, we're going to get started with another little mood meter routine. All right, I'm sorry I can't be there with y'all. I really do hate taking off school. It's absolutely awful and torture. All right, and I hope to be back there as soon as I'm able. All right, so please take the time. Everybody should be working on their word search for the remainder of class. Please do it on the computer if you've got a computer available.